Hi, I'm Naya. Welcome to Protect the Innocent. Today we're looking at the organization, how it's run. We're going to look at some terms, some slang terms. We're going to look at how and when the victims are victimized and becomes victims. What are some health issues that they may have after the abuse? First, let's look at the organizational chart. First, you have a pimp or trafficker, person who controls and financially benefits from the commercial sex exploitation of another person, usually abusive and possession and use techniques such as psychological intimidation, manipulation, starvation, rape, beating, confinement, threats of violence, forced drug use, and shame. Next, you have a John, person who fuels the trafficking market by providing something of value in exchange for a sex act. You have a victim, person who is being exploited for sexual purposes through methods of force, fraud, and coercion. In case of a minor, force, fraud, or coercion are not necessarily to prove because they are unable and otherwise provided consent. Some human trafficking language. Terms are used such as branded, a tattoo on a victim indicating ownership by a pimp or trafficker. Another term is grooming, when a trafficker is dating a girl to win her trust before he tells her he is a pimp or a trafficker. Another term is guerrilla pimp, violent trafficker or pimp. Another term is John, individual who pays for or trades something of value for sexual acts. Next, you have the term pimp, person who controls and financially benefits from the commercial sex exploitation of another person. The term quota, amounts of money a victim must give to their trafficker or pimp each night. Some slang terms. Terms like caught a case means went to jail for prostitution. Term choose up, act of joining traffickers' stables. Term choosing fee, term used on girls to pay to enter the stable. Term daddy. This term is a male trafficker or pimp requires his victims to call him. Term family or folks, group of victims under control of trafficker. Term is an attempt to recreate the family environment. Term kiddie stroll, an area of prostitution featuring young victims. Term lot lizard, derogatory term for a person being prostituted at a truck stop. Term seasoning, psychological or physical manipulation of victims to break them down and ensure compliance. Term square, person who is living a normal lifestyle. Term stable, group of trafficking victims under a single pimp. Term the life, the subculture of trafficking life complete with rules, a hierarchy of authority and language. Term the track, the area in which the girls walk to try to catch a date. Term wifey, this term is being used for prostituted are required to call another female in the stable. Branding and tats are some things that traffickers use to take ownership of their property because they think that that person is their property. They have special tats that they have their victims to wear, showing that these are my property. Drugs come into play. How do they come into play? By introducing them to the fun, to gain their trust. Why does drugs come into play? To have a form of control over the victim by helping them stay numb. This helps their body stay numb so they're able to perform the sex acts. When are the drugs put into play? As often as the trafficker or pimp needs to make them stay high so that they will have total control always. Physical injury trafficking victims may suffer from a range of physical injuries, including intentional and accidental burns, branding, tattoos, and other purposeful and permanent stigma of ownership, blunt force trauma, firearm and knife wounds, strangulation injuries, fractures, dental and oral cavity injuries, traumatic brain injuries, neuropathy and other effects of trauma, scarring, especially from unattended prior injuries depending on specific work setting and type of coercion. Victims of labor trafficking may suffer from a variety of exposure, overuse, or misused injuries, such as chronic back pain from repeated strain or overuse, vision or hearing impairment from lack of proper protective gear, skin, nerve system, and respiratory ailments from exposure of industrial or agricultural chemicals, effects of prolonged sun, heat, and cold exposures. Reproductive health. In addition to physical injuries, sex trafficking victims, and sexual abuse, labor traffic victims can suffer from physical and mental health effects of rape or gang rape, human trafficking, dental trauma, repeated unwanted pregnancy, forced abortions, complications from repeated or poorly performed abortions, sexually transmitted infections, B and C hepatitis left untreated. Trafficking victims are at risk for infertility, chronic pelvic pain, cervical cancer, liver failure, HIV/AIDS, and chronic disease stating results from untreated sexual transmitted infections. Guys, know your community, know your neighbors, know your friends, talk to your friends, love one another, reach out, have lunch, show your friends that you care by simply saying hello. You never know what's going on in their homes or in your community if you don't reach out. Love one another, please. Stay in tune with your families and what's going on. Have relationships. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. If you're in trouble or you know someone that's in trouble, please contact Families in Transition at 870-732-4077, the national hotline at 888-373-7888. or you can scan this QR code for CASA's website.